So, how do we declutter our inner world? And before we do that, to me, I feel of all the topics that we have looked at in terms of self care, this is probably the most important part of self care, decluttering our inner world. All of us know the importance of decluttering. Decluttering my external world, my home, periodically taking stock and saying, look, I have accumulated much more than I need to. Can I take stock and say, this thing served its purpose, is no longer needed? Can I either give it away or throw it away? And that periodic process of decluttering in my home allows me to live in the same home much more comfortably. But that process of decluttering is not something that I do just with my material possessions. That process of decluttering allows me to have a much more spacious inner world inside me as well. We talked about accessing our inner wisdom. And some of you may be saying, look, I understand the theory of the inner wisdom, but when I try to access my inner wisdom, nothing comes up. Or I'm having a lot of trouble accessing my inner wisdom. And very often that inner wisdom is not accessible because of the clutter in our inner world. And periodically taking time out, it is work, it is hard work. Periodically taking time out to do that inner decluttering allows us to access the inner wisdom much more easily. And the example that I gave in the weekly videos was this. I may have a wonderful red dress that I know exists somewhere. I bought it long time ago and I have a special event coming up and I want to wear that particular red dress, but I'm not able to find it right now. My cupboard is cluttered. My bed is full of clothes. I'm trying to look anywhere and everywhere and I'm not able to find that red dress. And I'm sure most of us have experienced this particular problem. What happens when I then decide, okay, it's high time I decluttered my cupboard, decluttered my room, and I start doing that? After a while, I find that red dress very easily. And for a period of time, because my cupboard has been decluttered, I'm able to find my things much more easily. And the same is true of my inner wisdom. My inner wisdom is like that red dress. It is sitting there somewhere inside. But because of all the clutter in my inner world, my mind, my emotions, I'm not able to access it. So, periodically decluttering my inner world will allow me to access that inner wisdom very easily. So, how do we declutter our inner world? And before we do that, to me, I feel of all the topics that we have looked at in terms of self care, this is probably the most important part of self care, decluttering our inner world. Why is that? Because when I throw out the rubbish that is inside me, I am feeling lighter. I am in a much better situation to face all the challenges that life throws at me. So, this is probably the highest form of self care and self love that I can show myself. So, one of the ways that we could declutter our inner world is to reflect on what is happening, and then based on that reflection, I decide I want to retain some part of whatever that is that I'm reflecting on, and the remaining part is something that I'm releasing. And this is the same process that our body follows in digestion as well. When we take food, no matter how nutritious that food is, the body says, this is good, I will use it. Once I have taken that, whatever is good, I'm going to throw away what is not needed by me anymore. And this is a lifelong process, lifelong cycle. Every day that I live, every day that I eat, the body is going to be doing this process. And the same is true in our life as well, in our inner world as well. We need to look at reflection, retention, and release. So, the most important thing then is to create that habit of reflection, even more than an environment of reflection. Of course, the environment is necessary. If I am just going from one thing to the other, from one activity to the other, if I'm just constantly doing that, then that there is no environment for reflection, there's no time for reflection. I'm not in the right frame for doing any kind of serious reflection. So firstly, creating space in my life, creating an environment of reflection is very important. Secondly, when I reflect, do it with a little bit of detachment. Detachment to say, this was wonderful, wonderful experience. What can I hold on to? What can I take with me of this experience? And even though this experience was wonderful, what is it that I can release? And this process, most of us understand. It is easy for us to do that. Well, I take back that. It is not easy for us to release or even think that something about a wonderful experience can be released. But there is something that even in the best of situations and life experiences, maybe I can release something. So I can do that. And similarly, in the worst of our experiences, when we went through the greatest challenge of our life, even in that situation, if I sit down and reflect, maybe there is one or two things that I can take with me and hold on to from that horrible experience, and then I can release the rest of it. So the process then is to use that little bit of detachment to observe ourselves as we have gone through the experience, and then identify, what do I hold on to and what do I release. If I'm able to do this consistently, my inner world is going to get decluttered very quickly. And the suggestion would be to spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes on a regular basis, maybe daily or weekly, setting aside time for this retention process. It need not be a painful process. It need not be a time consuming process. It's just the intention to say, today I'm going to set aside 5 to 10 minutes to declutter my inner world, and start with the first thing that comes to my mind. Oh, that process, that experience. Okay, let me look at it, identify what is the thing I want to hold on to. What is the thing that I need to release? Once I have identified what it is that I need to release, then just setting the intention and saying, okay, I release, I release, I release, and add in any kind of visualization that you want to. Maybe you have a fire that you want to just release all the unwanted things into. Or maybe you write it out on a piece of paper and then tear it up or burn it up. Anything that allows your mind and your emotional body to release it is good. And once you have spent 5 to 10 minutes, I suggest setting a timer so that you don't get lost in that negative experience if there is one. Just set a time limit of 5 to 10 minutes. Do this process, and once the timer rings, quickly bring yourself out of that reflective frame, and then change the environment, move yourself physically, drink a glass of water, and that process of release can be complete. And then you move on to other things in your day. This simple process, though it looks very simple, can be very powerful, because that release process is not something that's happening only in the 5 to 10 minutes. Though we are spending consciously 5 to 10 minutes, what we are doing is we are sending a message to our subconscious mind, it's time to release. And when the subconscious mind gets that message, it's going to act on it. So that is why this process is very powerful.